Servus, and welcome to another episode of the Pro Hockey Pod, episode 8. Back at it again here. This week, proud to have fellow goaltender on. We had a lot of goalie duels against each other, especially at the D3 level. So, NCAA D3, myself and this guest here are guys who kind of overlook the stigma, the kind of, oh, you play D3, it's gonna end stuff. And we persevered, and he's still playing now, has had a tremendous career playing pro, and I'm happy he's able to join us today on the Pro Hockey Pod. Welcome, Kevin Carr.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So we always start out basically talking about, where you grew up, kind of how you first learned to play the game. So you're product of the GTA area.
Mm.
So you grew up in Unionville. Is that kind of where you first fell in love with the game, learned to play?
Yeah. I grew up in Unionville, just outside of Toronto. I started skating, I think, when I was about 3. I think my parents put me on skates around 3, and I have an older brother, and he played hockey as well. So obviously, when you're young, you always look up to your older siblings, and I wanted to be a hockey player just like him. And my dad used to make a rink in the backyard, and that's probably where I started skating the most and enjoying the game and learning how much fun the game can be. And then, through the ponds and lakes and stuff like that. And then we started organized hockey after that. And I was a player up until about 11, I think, or about 7 years old. And then I wanted to be a goalie after that.
What I'm always curious, like what drew you to the goalie position? Me, it was I think I wanted my helmet painted. I said this from
Yeah.
day one. I think, and my parents were like, no, you can't have I was a defenseman. You can't have your player helmet painted. So you got to be a goalie. So it's kind of
Yeah.
similar for you.
It was the exact same. Yeah. My brother, like I said, my brother was playing hockey. So on his team, his goalie, his dad was a race car driver. And so he had a bunch of like stickers and stuff on his helmet. I thought that was so cool. And I was like, Dad, I have to have that too. Like, there's no way I can't be a goalie. So he bought me a mask and had that dad put some stickers on my mask. And at that young age, the organization provides the equipment. So they just gave me some equipment, and I just fell in love with it, and I never looked back.
That's awesome. What was your minor hockey path like? Like it says online you were part of the Markham Waxers. Like was that AAA, was it AA, or was it a different organization?
Yeah, so I played AAA pretty much my whole life. I was on the same team with like Stamkos and Delzato and Cameron Gauntz, Cody Hodgson, those guys growing up. And up until when hockey started to become serious, when guys were making or getting drafted to the OHL, and that's actually when I got cut. So I guess it was my minor midget year, maybe just before my minor midget year, I got cut and ended up playing double A from then on until even I played there for a couple of years, and then I moved on to what was called juvenile, and it's now I think called under 21, or I don't even know if it's actually still going anymore. But it's basically guys who couldn't make junior, and they still wanted to play organized hockey somewhat. So we were playing on this team, and it was glorified beer league, I think, at that time.
That's crazy. Like I grew up in Peterborough, so I played AAA there.
Mhm.
Obviously played against Markham regularly.
Yeah.
Uh, and then yeah, like just because of my memory, I really remember Markham kind of like the Bantam minor midget era when everyone Stamkos, they're all getting the hype, and that team like you guys
Mhm.
had a great team. Like if we lost like 7-1 to you guys, that was like a win. Like it was a good night, like it means
Yeah.
the goalies probably had a lot of saves and stuff. But that just to speak on that team, like I think
It's
everyone on that team got drafted to OHL except for like two guys.
Yeah, it was incredible, man. Like the talent that was on that team was, I don't know if you'll see a team better than that, to be honest with you, like across the board from forwards to defensemen. I think 5 made it to the NHL. The rest played, at least got drafted to the OHL or played in college. Actually, he played with David Titanic as well. His dad was the coach of the team, and he got drafted to Belleville, I think it was. And he had a good college career. There's just so many guys on that team. It was like, I mean, Steven Stamkos, you knew he was playing in the NHL when he was 8 years old. Like, just such a talent. Cody Hodgson, Michael Delzato, Cameron Gotts, all those guys. Like you just knew that there was something different about them that other players didn't have at that young age. So and even the dedication at that young age was there, and you could see it. You know.
Yeah. Definitely a step ahead of everybody, and there was so much hype around them too, and they definitely lived up to it back then. I remember playing OMHAs against those teams, and there's 200 people in the stands for Bantam hockey. It was pretty crazy, and I remember playing against Matt Cadeau as well. Like he obviously
Yeah.
went the D1 and then D3 route. We played against him at Plattsburgh, so yeah, lots of big names there. But back to you, obviously. So you played juvenile, as you said. I had some friends who played that as well, and then you went on to the Atlanta Junior Knights in the Met JHL. Not gonna lie, no idea what that league is. If you wanna
Me neither, man.
you wanna share how your time was there, kind of how you got there and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. So when I was playing juvenile, that Atlanta team actually, I would say they're equivalent maybe to like junior C at home, junior C, maybe junior B. And like no disrespect to Atlanta, but that was the quality of hockey it was. So they had entered this tournament, which was our under 21 tournament. It was in somewhere in Toronto. I can't remember where it was, but and they had entered the wrong tournament. They thought it was like this junior A tournament playing against like maybe the Markham Waxers or something like that. And we ended up playing them in the finals, and it was a pretty good game. It ended up being like 5-4 or something in overtime, and it was, even though it was a high scoring game, it was kind of a goalie battle between me and the other guy down on the other end. And my dad, like I was still trying to play junior, and I was trying to put some video together, and I didn't have much video at the time of me playing. And my dad asked, in the crowd there was somebody filming the game, so my dad ended up walking up and asking the guy who was filming it, "Hey, do you think you could send me this tape?" And the guy was like, "Well, yeah, no problem." Then they started talking like, "Who's your son?" And my dad said, "Oh, he's a goalie in the other team." And he's like, "Wow, pretty good goalie. What's he doing for next year?" And my dad was like, "We're not sure. We're trying to put this game tape together to send off to some junior teams, and maybe he can get a tryout or something." And he's like, "Well, if he'd be interested, we need a goalie for next year. Our goalie's leaving, and come down for a tryout." So I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure." So we drove down to Atlanta. I think it was about 18 hours, and my dad and I drove down, and I tried out for this junior team. Had no idea about the league, had no idea who was there, what it was even all about. And I knew that I wanted to continue playing hockey, but there was just no room for me anywhere in like the tier 2 level at home. I tried out for the Waxers, the Aurora Tigers. I was reaching out to even like the Bramley Blues, I think it were. So like there were some new junior teams that were up and coming, and nobody would really give me a chance even for a tryout, much more than offer me a spot on the team. So I ended up having a good tryout in Atlanta, and that's where I stuck. And it was honestly one of the best years of hockey I've ever had my whole life. It was the first time leaving home. I was old too. Like I only had maybe 1 or 2 years left in junior, and I was 18 and turned 19 down there, and got placed with the family, and the family was amazing, and played a lot of games. It was really cool. We had a really good team, and it was such a fun atmosphere to be somewhere else. Like we think in Canada we're like the best hockey players, but the reality is, we're good, but we're not the best. And there's so many good hockey players all around the world, and especially going to Europe now, you see that wherever I've been, like, and wherever you've been too. Like you see a lot of the German kids, they're good at hockey, man. So it was eye-opening experience for me, and it was one that I'll never forget.
It's pretty crazy to think that this chance happened because your dad just saw someone with a camera and was like, "Hey, I need to get
Yeah.
that tape." Like so.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
dad slash agent did a good job there.
Exactly. I know I should hire him. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good. One thing I was curious about too is, as you're, you said at like 7 years old or whatever, you start becoming a goalie. Was there goalies you were watching maybe on TV that you were trying to, kind of play like, kind of influence your game after, or were you also like going to goalie schools as well, and that was kind of how you were honing your skills?
It's kind of funny. I think my dad and I talked about this pretty recently, just like going over minor hockey career and career up until this point. And when I was playing on that AAA team, I was the only goalie on that team for I think 7 years. We never had another goalie. So I kind of got a little bit comfortable, a little bit complacent, I would say, like, you know, when there's not much competition, you don't have to work very hard to feel like, I was playing golf in the summer and I wasn't really working out like my other teammates were. And I took it for granted. And then when I got cut, it was like a slap in the face. And it really, even at a young age, it really, I would say, like lit a fire under me, because at that point I knew I wanted to be a hockey player. And before that, I just was kind of expecting to play every game and like it was going to be easy. I was going to get drafted to the OHL and whatever and make it to the NHL, but it doesn't work like that. So after I got sent down to AA, I ended up playing for the Markham Waxers for a couple of years, and my goalie partner, his name's Frank Krupe. Actually, he's the, if you follow him social media, the Hockey Illuminati. Him and I were goalie partners for a while, and he introduced me to Piero Greco, who's the goalie coach now for the Islanders. So I worked with Piero from then on and up until college, and I still worked with him a little bit. He mostly is with the Islanders now, but I work with his understudy, and he was the best goalie coach I've ever had, and I still to this day I think he's the best. And for whatever reason, he just got me. He understood me, and he was tough on me, and I learned a lot from him, and I still learn a lot from him. But as far as goalies go, I would try to emulate Carey Price as much as I could. I just thought he was so good, so smooth, so efficient in the crease and powerful. And so I would say Carey Price.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. That's what I just playing against you in college. That's kind of the image I saw, how you played, your style, just how you went about the game. So, I mean, not a bad guy to kind of make your game after. But back to, Piero Greco.
Yeah.
I think like in the GTA, like especially like I grew up Burlington area at the end, and like we were pretty spoiled there with goalie coaches. Like you had Piero Greco, you had the Franco brothers, you had John Elkin, Ron Mays was in Oakville. There's probably
Mhm.
some others I'm missing, but like Eli Wilson would come to town as well. So like these are all guys who have, either gotten guys to the next level, gotten them to the NHL, worked themselves at the NHL level, and
Yeah.
just the amount of turnout that they've had. And like as you said, the most important thing I think with a goalie coach is having that connection, someone that understood you. I
Mhm.
honestly skated with Pierre Greco once. I think at the time he was the goalie coach for Barrie when I skated with him. This might have been before my draft year, after, I can't remember. And
Mhm.
I was just so out of my element. Like I still hadn't really understood how to, the work you have to put in off the ice. Like I was just talented, was getting away with it, but I didn't know what, like kind of like you were golfing the summer. Me, I went to the gym, and because I went to the gym, that meant I did something, but it didn't mean I actually worked hard. And I
Yeah.
remember skating with him and just leaving and being like, oh my God, like that was so intimidating. And I don't think I skated with him again. But it's funny, like,
Mhm.
he has that presence, but you found someone that understood you, saw
Yeah.
potential in you, and knew how to kind of push you to get to, your game to the next level every year.
Yeah, I agree with that. At the time when I first started going to him, I was still doing like half butterflies and like diving poke checks, man. It was it was so far from Grex's theory. But I was also at the time, I feel like I was at the perfect time because I was open to new instruction, because I just recently gotten cut from that team, and it, like I said, it was a big eye opener for me. I wasn't closed off to learning like I thought I was previous, and that really set the tone for the rest of my career moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And then, so after you're like obviously living in Atlanta, living away from home, as you said, it was an 18-hour drive. So you're far from home. Like you've taken an extreme. It's not like moving somewhere and, you know, 2 hours away from home or something in junior. Like you're
Yeah.
basically another country, really far away,
Yeah.
hard to back then, there's no FaceTime, there's no stuff like that.
No. No.
But so after that year, you obviously had a really good year in that league. Uh were you thinking after that, hey, I just turned 19 years old, like I want to go to college right away, or should I try to get to maybe a higher junior league and keep, developing my game, because there's always that talk about with goalies that, it's better to, if you're going to go to college, go at 20 or 21, because goalies develop at a, slower pace, but then their prime is at a like maybe a later age than players in a sense.
Yeah, I kind of struggle with that, either choosing to go back to junior. I didn't really know where I would go. Um, I knew I wanted to go to college for sure. I had talked to a few teams, went on a few recruitment trips, but at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I have this opportunity to go to Buff State, and I'm gonna take it because if next year, if I go to some team and like I don't play as much, or whatever could happen, then maybe I wouldn't get the opportunity to go to school. And I have it right now. It's what I've wanted, and there's an opportunity for me to play at the D3 level. And I think that's so overlooked these days, where people want to go D1 because there's a nice tracksuit, and you can say to your buddies, I play D1, but in reality, they're not playing as much as they want, and they can't develop by sitting on the bench. So, not to say that I was going to make D1 at all. I don't think at that time I was ready to play Division I hockey. And I don't know if I was even ready to play Division III hockey, to be honest with you. But I wanted to take that next step, and I knew that there was an opportunity maybe to play if I was capable. So that's why I chose Buff State.
I mean, I'd have to disagree with you on the being ready for Buff State. I mean, you were a staple in the pipes there, a starter as a freshman for your whole career. I mean, your first year you had a 921 save percentage. So yeah, you clearly weren't ready for that step. But yeah, that stigma, man, like, and it's everywhere. It's D1, D3. It's even, I see it now working in Germany. There's a lot of these young kids. They would rather say, hey, I play in the Dell 2 and play fourth line and 5 minutes of ice a night, instead of going down to the third league where they would probably play, 15, 18 minutes a night, develop their game, and then they would be able to take the step back up to those leagues. But, you know,
Mhm.
when we were growing up, like I was the same way. Like I got a D1 scholarship and it was so cool. The title was awesome to say, yeah, I play D1. But at the same time, I wasn't ready for it and ended up switching to D3. And we've talked about this like off camera, like D3 is really good hockey. Like you yourself, your team was probably middle pack team in our conference, but every night you're getting tons of shots, which is good for your development. You're getting known throughout the league as, hey, Kevin Carr is a really good goalie. And I think every year you were top 3 in goalies and awards and the SUNYAC all teams and stuff. So, you know, I'd say for the 4 years you spent at Buff State, it definitely helped progress your game a lot, because you were put into a lot of, pressure situations, and a lot of big games.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. There's always a battle playing against you as well. But yeah, definitely you have to play, and definitely good for your development to like you said, get put in those situations where you're probably not going to succeed at the time, as far as like winning the game or anything like that. But then looking back, you're like, you know what, that was a win because it gave me the experience moving forward. And yeah, I probably would have 30, 40, 50 shots a night, and it was fun. That's so much fun. You want to get work. Like I still to this day, the more work I have throughout a game, the better I'm probably going to play. And I think that stemmed from school and junior hockey.
Yeah. I mean, I think anytime a goalie can have the choice between 50 shots and 25, they're gonna say I want 50, because you're constantly like still involved in the game. Your mind is focused, you feel in a rhythm. And that was one of the things I personally found difficult sometimes at Oswego, was we rarely got outshot. And like a
Yeah,
lot of nights I'd have 20, 25. Doesn't
yeah,
mean there were 25 bad shots. Like sometimes there'd be 5 great A's and I'd have to make a big save. And when they go in, it's kind of like, uh 2 goals on 23 shots doesn't look as good as 2 goals on 50 shots, like something you would have yourself. But
sure, yeah.
what did you study at Buff State?
Health and wellness, and I did a minor in coaching actually.
Okay. The old minor in coaching, I did that as well.
Yeah, yeah. It was I don't know about the program. It was okay. It meant that I could play hockey, so that's all that mattered for me.
And you graduated?
I did graduate. Yep. Yeah. How about
Uh,
you? What did you take?
I took when I was at Niagara, I took sports management, and then when I went to Oswego, I had to switch because they didn't have it, so I took business. I graduated that, got my minor in coaching, which was, basically all our coaches did classes and said, please don't show up. So
Yeah.
that
I
was
know.
basically, I'm an expert in coaching.
Looks
No, but
good on that.
how was the campus and stuff there? Like, you guys are obviously like, are you downtown Buffalo on the low on the outside, or?
Yeah, we're pretty much really well, I would say 15 minutes from downtown. We're really close to downtown, just on the outskirts. Campus was great. It was small. They call it a commuter school. I don't know how Oswego worked, but there wasn't too many people that stayed on campus. I think there was maybe at the time like 6,000, and it might have had 25,000 students. So 6,000 stayed on campus. My numbers are probably wrong, but um, it kind of felt like a really big high school. And like from what I hear in the States, like high schools are huge, and it just wasn't like that in Canada. But that's what it felt like to me, where you could walk around campus pretty quickly, but also feel like you're blending in with the population, like you're not stuck,
Mm-hmm.
just because you had a Buff State hockey tracksuit on, like you get noticed. So it was good, and I think smaller class sizes helped me with schooling as well. I wasn't the brightest student, I should say. So the smaller class sizes helped me. But we had the rink was on campus, which was awesome. Um, not many schools have that, and yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Well, I was gonna mention, like, obviously you guys at the time were sharing the rink with Canisius, so a
Yeah,
D1 school. And as you
yeah,
said, it's your rink, it's on your campus, and these guys, I guess were renting it or using it as well. How was it kind of sharing the rink with the D1 program? Like, were they kind of getting like more favorable ice times, or did they have to kind of plan their stuff around your guys' schedule because it technically was your rink?
yeah. They would plan it around us, so that we would practice. I think it was from 2 to 4, and they would practice, if I remember correctly, after us. Maybe it was before. Actually, I can't remember. That's a good point. But I kind of felt bad for them, man. Yeah, they had some good teams, and they weren't in their own rink. Like that's kind of weird to me. Being from a Division 1 school, you think they would want their own rink, which obviously they have now, and it's beautiful. But it was cool to watch them. I think Capobianco was their goalie when I was there. He was really good. So it would be fun to go early and watch him in practice and just see how those guys work too, because you're always comparing yourself. Like, how do you stack up? And um, there wasn't that much difference, to be quite honest with you. I felt like if we played them, we would still have a pretty good game against them. So yeah, it was fun to watch, and they've had some good games. Like, we would go and watch their games, but they never got really good fans. Like, I don't know how they do now, but it was kind of tough to watch.
Yeah, I feel like just being at that rink, like the only time they would get a lot of good fans was obviously like if they had the rivalry with Niagara. So if Niagara
Yeah,
came and played, it'd be like Niagara fans would come as well. But
yeah,
it must have, like, when you think of the college experience, you think
mhm,
of crazy fans, like kind of like we've seen it now in Europe. So it's like
yeah,
that, but like drunk fans everywhere, like cheering the local team or the school team on. And I always wonder that for Canisius. I had two buddies who went there, Carl Hudson and Corey Conacher.
yeah,
Um, and I always wonder that playing in a rink that's not yours, not having that much fans, like, did it feel like college to them, or was,
yeah,
maybe like juniorish feel to it? But I guess I'd have to ask them that. But
yeah. I mean, Conacher, he was a superstar, and he's playing in someone else's rink. That, like, he should be playing in a 20,000 seat arena, and
mhm.
having a cheer and everything for him. But um, yeah, I always thought that was a little bit strange.
So then after your 4 years of dominance at Buff State, you went on to the program. Did, like, first of all, did you always, when you were playing, maybe like your junior, senior year, like, did you always have the plan, when I'm done, I'm gonna go try pro?
Yeah, I wanted to play, and I kind of front loaded most of my schooling so that if there was an opportunity to play my senior year while still at school, then I could leave. And I put a lot of my classes online throughout the second semester.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously I could still graduate on time and go and play somewhere. And then throughout that whole year, maybe closer to the second half of the season, I was sending emails out to every team at every league at every level to see if I could go and play somewhere after. Ended up getting an opportunity in Peoria and left school and played a few games. I think it was about 4 games. They had a really good goalie there at the time, so I knew I don't know if I was going to play much, but I ended up playing about 4 or 5 games, and that was a cool experience. I almost didn't get the chance to be there because they thought I was American, and since I was Canadian, I had a school visa. As soon as I got there, they were like, "You're not American." Like, it says on my elite prospects at the time that I was American. So they're like, "Well, I don't know if you can stay here because we need like an American guy. We don't have time to get your visa and everything." And I begged him. I was like, "Please just let me play. Like let me try. What can I do?" And he's like, "Well, you're gonna have to go back to the border and drive with a fan to go back to the border and change your student visa to like a, I don't know what it was, like a P1 visa, a working visa." And there was only 4 games left in the season, regular season, and then we played in playoffs. And I was like, "Hey, well, it's kind of a far drive," and I didn't want to go with some like random fan. And my parents were actually coming down to watch the first game, and so I called them. I was like, "Where are you guys?" And they're like, "Well, we're just about to cross the border in Sarnia." And I said, "Wait there, don't go anywhere. Get a hotel. I'm going to fly." So I flew from Peoria to basically and got to Sarnia somehow. Met my parents the next day and changed my visa from a student visa to the P1 visa, which reluctantly they gave me. I don't know how they did it, but so they gave it to me. I then drove with my parents back to Peoria for a game that night. I didn't make it in time, but then I played the next night, and that was my start to pro hockey.
That's a crazy,
Yeah.
24 hours, 36 hours. Hello, pro
Yeah.
hockey.
Yeah.
Um, but just like back to kind of your story here. So you're when you're done D3, you have to start in the SPPHL, and another league that gets not the best rap for hockey. Like
Yeah.
as we've talked about, there are definitely players there that's could be playing in the coast and for whatever reason aren't, whether they're overlooked or just have a good setup there. But as you said, you played 6 games or so in this league, and then next year you immediately take the jump to the East Coast in Tulsa. And I remember watching all the highlights. I was in Europe at this point, but of your Tulsa games of the 2 years that you were there, uh,
Mhm.
That's a pretty big jump. And then being an undrafted goalie, I've said this before, playing in the East Coast is not easy. And you were a starter for those 2 years. Did you do anything different that summer that just allowed you to kind of take like that bigger leap, I would say? Or, did you have an agent that kind of pushed you to get the job there? Did you have a connection there? Or was it just kind of you went to camp, busted your balls, and ended up, being rewarded for your hard work?
Yeah. So after I was in Peoria, we got knocked out the first round of playoffs. And after that, I ended up getting called up to Colorado, and they were in the East Coast at the time. So I went right from Peoria to Colorado. I didn't play any games, but I was up there and practicing with them. And I felt like it was another jump, but I felt like, you know what, I can be here. I can play. And I ended up having to go back to school to finish writing exams. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't play much or didn't play at all. So I went back to school, and then so throughout that summer, I was like, you know what, like I feel like I can be there, and it really instilled in my head that I can play, but I have to work. I have to work hard. So that summer, yeah, I put in a lot of work, and every summer since then, I try to put in as much work as I can. So once we get to camp, like I'm pretty much running, hit the ground running. So I got to camp originally in Tulsa. I signed in the CHL. So they were part of the CHL with Wichita and Allen. And so I got to camp, and they said, "Hold up, like we can't start camp yet because the ECHL and the CHL are going to merge. So I was in a hotel for like 2 weeks just waiting for camp to start. And camp was supposed to be, I think it was going to be like 10 days or something. And there was going to be like 7 exhibition games or 5 exhibition games. And then when they merged, it was like, okay, 4 or 5 day camp. We have 1 exhibition game and we're going to pick the team from there. So I'd been sitting in, we couldn't practice or do much. So I'd been sitting in a hotel just waiting. And there was one player that I try to keep in touch with him still. Throughout camp, he was an older guy. His name was Nathan Lutz. And he was one of the players that went to the coach for me. I had no idea who this guy was. He had been in Rockford. He played in the American League, played in Europe for a little bit as well. And throughout camp, like I felt like I had a pretty decent showing. And he went to the coach, and I remember talking to him, and he was like, "I really, like your game." And I said, if there's anything you could do, just tell the coach, give me a chance, basically, So he ended up actually going to the coach and being like, "I think you should give this guy a shot." And at the time, we had 4 or 5 other goalies there, 2 of which were drafted by the NHL. I can't remember what teams in the NHL, but 2 of which were drafted in the NHL, and 2 had played games before, like they weren't rookies at all. And I was the only rookie. And they took a chance on me. I was making bare minimum money, and I think we ended up going through 6 goalies that year, and I was the only one that stuck around, a lot of which were drafted or signed by NHL teams, and they got rid of them. And I think I played 54 games that year.
Yeah, no, lead prospect says 52. I'm just looking at the goalie. So that Brady Helia, forget his name. He went to Manglard, and then I actually played against him. He was in Stern in the year I was in.
Oh, no
in
way. Yeah.
in
He played at Ohio State, I think.
yeah, yeah. So he was there. I remember that Mike Zacharias, the name, Kevin Murdoch. I remember the name. Andy Isles was up, but he didn't play much. Oh, he played with Phil Brewer. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, what I take away from that is first, I totally forgot about that merge. It was that year that happened where they merged the Central with the Coast, which obviously, it's just for you, it's just kind of like one of those like breaks that I think your hard work that you deserve. Like, right place, right time. And then you had someone, randomly in your corner that went to the coach and was like, hey, you should give this guy a chance. And ultimately it paid off. I wanted to ask, the year before, when you said you went to Colorado briefly and then had to go back to Buff State for exams, do you think the fact that you went to Colorado and you didn't play, but you at least saw like the practice, saw the level of like what guys were on average in that league, do you think that kind of helped you and prepared you like going into that summer being like, hey, I've seen the level now I know where I need to get to be or where I need to get my game to?
I think so, a little bit. Just practicing with them and seeing the level that I needed to raise my game to. And they were a first-class organization. They still are. I ended up signing 2 American League deals with them recently. So it's kind of funny how hockey works like that. But they were so professional, and they still are. So I knew that if I wanted to be in this league, then I needed to be more professional in myself, just how I acted, how I held myself on and off the ice. And as far as playing goes, yeah, definitely seeing those guys and being like, hey, I need to put in some work. Like, okay, maybe I had a decent college career, but that now I need to get better. I need to be more efficient in the net. And I remember my first game in Tulsa, first pro game, I think we won 10-9 against Allen. And I remember like just being everywhere in the crease. I was so aggressive, and I was bouncing around and just being like, I wasn't calm at all. I was just like popping out rebounds left and right. And that was a crazy first game. But yeah, I think, like you said, I think being in Colorado really helped me that summer.
Luckily, after that 10-9 game, you didn't get the snip because, on the coast, it's there's so much turnover, especially for
It's
goalies, as I
ruthless,
said.
man. It's ruthless. Yeah. Yeah. It took me a little bit of time to get my feet wet, but afterwards, I think they trusted me a little bit more. I kind of started to calm down and learn as much as I could. And I was just a sponge. Like I was always asking questions, and to any goalie that would tell me anything, or any player that would tell me anything. So that helped.
I remember I went to Rapid City one year for the camp, and I remember we played Colorado evidently because it was our closest trip and exhibition, and I had to play the away game. And I remember getting on the blue line or on the red line and stretching, and oh, what's his name? Who was the goalie that played in Winnipeg and Nashville? And he's like the Chris Mason. Chris
Yeah.
Mason was there randomly in like as the backup goalie for this game, and he just like starts shooting the shit with me, like,
Oh
"What's
way.
going on, man? Like, is this your first time? Like, how's it going?" Like, just like, and I was like just talking to him a bit. So it's like
Yeah.
one of those things. Like, you pick people's brain, and he had obviously had a long NHL career, and
Yeah.
you just learn from people like that. And obviously, it's good when they're kind enough to help you and give you some meaningful advice.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Um, So after your 2 years in Tulsa, you went to Alaska. So how was it? How was it
Yeah.
playing in Alaska?
Yeah, I was actually going to sign a third year back in Tulsa, and that summer I got traded. So the coach, they had fired the coach in Tulsa, and we got a new coach, Jason Christie, who's now the assistant in Buffalo with the Sabres. And so he called me in the summer and was like, "Hey, we want you back. Like, how much money do you want? Whatever." And we were talking money, and then he called me. He's like, "Okay, leave it with me for a couple days, and I'll get back to you." I thought that was kind of weird. Like I had been there a few years, and thought maybe like I deserved the money. I didn't ask for that much of an increase, and like I was going from like 500 to I asked for 700. Like it was only a $200 increase. It wasn't. I didn't feel like it was that crazy. But anyways, he calls me back and he goes, "Yeah, I traded you to Alaska. They need a goalie there." And I was like, "The fuck." I don't want to go to Alaska. It seems so far away. Uh, the travel would be crazy. I knew it would be crazy. But you know what? It ended up being the best thing ever because as soon as I got dealt there, Rob Murray, who's now the coach in Tulsa, but he'd been there in Alaska for I think 6 or 8 years, something like that, a long time. He calls me up, and at that time it was the World Cup of Hockey in Toronto. So all the teams, like all the NHL goalies were there. All the best NHL goalies were there. And he's like, we were affiliated with Vancouver at the time. And he's like, "Hey, welcome to the team. Do you want to go to the NHL camp in Vancouver?" And I was like, obviously, yeah, of course I do. And he's like, "Okay, they're going to call you in the next couple of days and set up flights, and you're going to go to main camp in Vancouver." I was like, whoa. That just completely threw me for a loop because I was 2 days away in the summer. I had been working out and skating a lot to try to get prepared for the upcoming season, and I had done something to my hip. I thought I had torn my labrum in my hip, and I couldn't really walk much. I couldn't be on the ice. And I was the day before Rob Murray called me to ask me if I wanted to go to NHL camp. I was going to call him and be like, "Hey, I am going to get an MRI. Like, I don't know if I can make it to camp," because it was a few weeks prior to the NHL camp starting. And I was going to tell him, like, I don't know if I'm even ready to play. Like, I might be done for the year. I don't know. I might need surgery. Anyway, so I went up to the local hospital and had an MRI done, and it wasn't torn, but there was something going on. There was some sort of inflammation, and maybe I just stretched too far or something. And but I couldn't really walk much, like I was saying. And for whatever reason, I don't know. I'm not a very religious guy, but somebody in a higher power healed me because I was able to go to camp and in like 4 or 5 days, and my body just said, "No, it's your time to play." And then I went to NHL camp, and that was such a cool experience. And I was able to play, and I had no pain, and it was just unbelievable how life works like that. And I was very thankful for that opportunity.
I'm a big believer that whatever it is in life, you don't have to be religious, but the breaks happen to people who deserve it, to good people. And someone like yourself will obviously put in the hard work all summer. You're ready. Obviously, I don't think in your like. Let's just talk about this. Like 3 years ago, you were playing D3 hockey, and now
Yeah.
you're going to an NHL camp. I remember this too. I remember reading this and being like, "Holy!" And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like I mean, I've had a torn labrum. I played through it my whole career, so thankfully you didn't have that because it's like I have to like stretch. I had to stretch every day. If I didn't stretch like 2 days in a row, like I would not be able to walk because my hip would be so bad, and found a
Yeah.
way to get through it. But Yeah, let's talk about camp a little bit. Like for those who like myself who've never been to an NHL camp, like how was it? How long were you there? Kind of, is it everything that people, say it is, like just a professional and just, bunch of great guys as well?
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. So I flew in, I had somebody pick me up. So to rewind a little bit, a couple days prior, the team had called me and set up flights, and then the equipment managers call you and they ask you what kind of sticks you want and if you need any equipment or anything like this. And obviously, I'm not on a deal or anything, but with the CBA, I guess that's one of the things in the CBA. So, anyways, get my flights. I fly into Vancouver. They put me up in a really nice hotel downtown Vancouver with all the other players. And because I wasn't on a deal, I got my own room. I didn't have to room with anybody. So even going to camp, we drove up to Whistler. Their camps are in Whistler, and again, I had my own room, and I think I had a fireplace in my room and everything. It was so nice. It was unbelievable. And I just remember being so nervous and so anxious to get camp going. I just wanted it because I felt most comfortable on the ice. Everything else, you don't know if you stack up with those guys kind of thing. But I felt most comfortable on the ice where I could just be myself and I could just play hockey and enjoy it. And that's what I was trying to do the whole time, is just I wasn't supposed to be there. I wasn't meant to be there. Or I was meant to be there, but I felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. And I tried to cherish every moment of it and meet as many people as I could. And um, so in camp, it was Thatcher Demko, Michael Garteg, and another junior kid that they either drafted or they were going to draft, and then myself. So I had taken Markstrom's place because he was with, I think he's Swedish. He was with Sweden in the World Cup. So yeah, the first day we went through, we were in Vancouver at the Rogers Center, and we went through all our testing and everything. And there was it wasn't the Wingate, but it was a bike test. And like I was saying before, my hip was hurting, so I couldn't really train as hard as I wanted to train leading up to the camp. So they put me on this bike, and obviously you're going as hard as you can. So I was, pedaling as hard as I could, trying to impress them and all this stuff. And I got off the bike and I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I actually went around I left the gym and walked up the concourse and went around the concourse because I thought I was going to pass out, and I didn't want anybody to see me pass out or throw up. So I tried to hide in like a little dark alleyway where I knew nobody was going to go into. Try to catch my breath. I was laying down on the ground, and then I went back to the gym and finished the rest of them. And I just told them I had to go to the bathroom or something. And that was really embarrassing. But ever since then, I was like, hey, I need to work a lot harder in the summertime. But then leading up to that, we got in the bus. We all bussed up to Whistler. I was sitting next to, I believe it was Alex Burrows at the time. Or was it Burrows? Anyways, somebody on the team that was pretty legendary in Vancouver. And I was thinking to myself the whole time, like, what am I doing here? Who is this guy? What am I doing? Why am I on this bus? I'm just shooting the breeze with Alex Burrows, and we're going up to play hockey, and we ended up playing. I think it was one exhibition game, one inter squad game, and through camp we went and played golf at Nicholas North, and that was spectacular golf course. But overall, it was just such an amazing experience. Everyone was so professional. Everything is on time. You knew there was like the communication was so dialed in. I've never been on a team with the communication like that before, where everything was just like boom, boom, boom. You're breakfast at 9 o'clock. You're on the ice at 11:30. You're in the gym at 11:45, and it was just like such a smooth transition to everything, and it really opened up my eyes to what that lifestyle is really like.
Well, I'd have to say, like just from hearing people like my friends who played NHL and stuff, like, they say every level you go up, it's easier to play because, everything's taken care of for you. Everybody on the ice, like especially knows where they're supposed to be, knows, communication, stuff like that. Back to the equipment first, I would have been like, yep, I need 6 sticks of this. I need new pads. I need just
Yeah.
milk as much of that. Cause obviously, as you said, you weren't signed technically yet. And,
No.
didn't have the luxury of getting 6 sets of gear like some of those goalies. But
Yeah.
first time on the ice, like I'm just curious, like are you like, you get on the ice, you're wearing the Vancouver Canucks like practice jersey, whatever. Are you just like pinching yourself, being like, holy, like I'm
Yeah.
what like is this a dream or
Yeah, I remember. So we got to Whistler, we walked in the room, and obviously they take your bags and you don't touch anything. And we walked in the dressing room, everything was all set up. I looked over to Demko's stall, and he had no gear in it. And I remember overhearing him talking about, because he was at Brian's at the time, and he had just left school and didn't bring any equipment with him because Brian's was shipping him stuff overnight.
mm-hmm.
So he was playing in the morning, and he's like, I hope it comes. And his equipment arrived in the morning. And I thought that was just so cool because I'd never really thought about that before, like why don't you have equipment with you? But so anyways, his brand new stuff got shipped to him in the morning. He walked on the ice with brand new stuff. I look over to my stall, and it's a chair next to the shower, and it had like I still have it, the nameplate, and it just said, K Carr on it with the Vancouver logo, and it was in a chair, and I have a picture of it. I actually might have it on my phone, but it didn't matter to me. They could have put me in the shower, like whatever. So they had laid all my stuff out on the chair and all over the floor and whatever, and I didn't care. I wanted to just go on and play. So got dressed, and we had a little goalie session before each practice. And the goalie coaches were Rolly Melanson and Dan Kluche. So that was really cool to just be on the ice with those guys too, because they're legends in their own right.
Yeah, it must have been like, man, must have been such a cool experience. And obviously, you took what you learned from that camp experience and the next couple of years of pro. And I'm sure today you're still using things that you learned there. The next couple of years you started like kind of doing that like kind of get dipping your toe a bit into European hockey and then coming back. So like,
Yeah.
first experience in Europe, you went to Zagreb there in the top Austrian league. How was that for an experience? Like I've heard that place is a beautiful place to live. Like I had Michael Luzis on here before, and
Yeah.
he gave me a funny story about when he had to pick up his gear from there from the post office. But he said it was an awesome place to live. Did you feel it was kind of the same?
Yeah, it was really cool. Like you said, it was my first experience in Europe, and I left mid-season in Utah, which I really didn't want to do. I felt like that was really disrespectful to do because I was playing in Utah. I loved Utah, and I'd had conversations with the coach there, and I just said, like, I want to get American League call up and play games, and if I can't, like, I probably would like to go to Europe, you know. And I don't know if he really believed what I was saying, but when this opportunity came, I had to take it because it was what I wanted. I wanted to go to Austria, and I left in January, so I got there with, I don't know, a few months left in the season, anyways, and um, I arrived. Someone picked me up who didn't speak any English. It was all pitch black. It was like late at night. We were driving through these weird roads, and I thought, like, what am I doing here? Like, this is so weird. And dropped our stuff off at the rink, and the rink was a little bit weird, and ended up being a really cool experience. And the fans were amazing and everything. But it was my first experience in Europe, and I'd never even vacationed there, so I really had no idea what to expect. And I had a place that they gave me right across the street from the rink, which was perfect. Um, and that was, it was a really fun city, really fun time. It was super cheap to live there. The food was amazing. The people were really nice. It was a good experience to play hockey in.
Yeah, and then like so I'm very curious about your path just because like it seems like each year you rotate. So like you went
Mhm.
there, played in that league, which is a good league. Then the
Yeah.
next year you go back to the coast in Utah. Then the year after
Yeah.
that you go to England, and then you go
Yeah.
back to Utah again, and then back
Mhm.
to England and Nottingham. Like
Yeah.
what was your thought process there? Was it something you still had that hey, if I can get that AHL call up uh on your mind, or was it just kind of what was available, what was familiar to you, obviously going back to Utah and stuff because you had been there before?
Yeah. I really liked Utah, and I kept in touch with the coach there, Tim Branham, who's now an assistant in Colorado. But I kept in touch with him all summer, and I actually called him because, like I was saying before, I didn't really feel comfortable leaving. I thought that it was really shitty to my teammates to leave mid-season because we had a couple guys that left at the exact same time as well. And the way it worked, it happened just so fast that I couldn't give him a heads up. Like, hey, I'm thinking about leaving the next couple of weeks. Um, you should probably, call another goalie in because I'm going to leave. So I wanted to smooth the waters over because the hockey world's so small, and your name is the only thing that people, or the only thing that you have, and people will respect you for it or not, And if you have some integrity, like I said, the hockey world's small and people talk. So I called him in the summer and I just said to him, like, I apologize for leaving. It was a really shitty thing for me to do. And he was like, you know what? Don't worry about it. You have to do what you have to do as far as, your own career goes. But he said, I would really like you to have you back. And I think I can get you an American League deal with Colorado. We were affiliated with Colorado at the time. And I was like, shit, okay, yeah, that's what I've been hoping for. A little bit of security playing in the coast because you can't really get cut. And if you're on a two-way deal. So I ended up signing a two-way deal with Colorado. And I thought it was a good opportunity because every year with the Avalanche, they would always have, I think Varlamov was there, somebody else was there, and they would always get hurt, and all their goalies would always get called up. So I thought, okay, if I can spend some time in the coast, maybe through Christmas time or something like that, I'd get a call up to the American League and maybe I'd get a game or two. And so that was my thought process on coming back. So I signed that deal. I ended up spending the whole year in Colorado, which was fine. It was me and Joe Canada pretty much the whole season. And again, I really love Utah. I would probably like to live there one day. And I don't know. The rest is history, I guess. But
Joe Canada, that's a name. I remember him from Merrimack, and just like, he came out of college and went on a heater in the AHL for a long time. And I think he's transitioned now into Sweden. But yeah, goalie world small.
yeah.
And then so after that year, that AHL deal that you got, you went over to Nottingham in the top English league there, the EIHL. How
Mhm.
how how was, you've played there, two out of the past four seasons.
Mhm.
When I was playing, especially early on, like I think that league kind of had a bad rep. But it was kind of like, hey, you go there, it's kind of like the coast, but like, not as like much of a grind in terms of travel. You get to,
Mhm.
it's somewhere you can speak English. But the hockey
Yeah.
itself, I think, took a beating, word of mouth wise, where now I feel like, recently, like those teams are beating teams in the Champions Hockey League,
Yeah.
like, top Swiss teams, German teams, you name it. So how was it
Yeah.
playing in Nottingham for those 2 seasons?
It was amazing. I had played with their coach when I left Utah that summer. An ex teammate of mine had called me. His name was Tim Wallace, and I played with him in Alaska. He was from Alaska, but he got the coaching job in Nottingham and called me. I was like, "Hey, would you be interested in coming to England?" And at the time, I didn't know what I was going to do. I kind of wanted to go back to Europe because I felt like it was my time to leave the coast and try something new. And then this opportunity came, and I said yes right away. I didn't even think about it, and we said yes. My now wife and I, we went over, and it was a really cool experience to be in that culture. Like you said, English speaking, which was really easy on both of us. Probably even more so on her because she's not with the guys every day, So that was an easy part of it. But the hockey is really good. There's really good talent. We had guys in the team with NHL experience, like over 100 games NHL experience. One guy, my first year there, Brett Connolly, or Brian Collins, excuse me. He had a Stanley Cup ring with Chicago. He was up in Chicago when they won one of their first cups. We had so much talent. I mean, actually, you might know Sam Hare. He's playing in Ravensburg.
Yeah, yeah.
He often, yeah, it was just such a good experience, and we had such a good team, and the organization's good, and the rink is amazing. The fans were so passionate about hockey, and it was just a really great place to be.
It sounds like it because obviously, as I said, you spent 2 seasons there with a brief detour back to Utah in between. Again, I'm curious. So after you have like such a good season and in Nottingham, like what was the decision there to go back again, evidently to the coast, and do that grind, if you will say, instead of just carrying on either in Nottingham or England, or trying another European league?
Yeah, so that was the COVID year where I actually didn't go to. I didn't have a place to play because the English league wasn't playing. They did like a mini series, but that wasn't until later in January, February, something like
Mm-hmm.
that. So yeah, we were just stuck in my parents' house, just waiting to see if I could go play somewhere. This is a little bit of a funny story, but I had signed in the Federal Hockey League, the FHL, to just play. I just wanted to play. I wanted to keep playing so that I could, not, feel like I was losing it a little bit, because I knew I wanted to continue playing it. So I signed the Fed, and in Watertown, one of my buddies had played there for a few years. He's like, "Why don't you just come play and we'll just keep playing and have fun together and whatever." So I signed in the Fed for like $200. I didn't care. It didn't matter about the money. I just wanted to continue playing. So I was getting ready to go to the Fed, and like a couple days later, a team in the SPA called me, and they're like, "We saw that you signed in the Fed, but would you be interested in coming and playing the SPA?" And I was like, "Sure." Okay, a little bit of pay increase and better hockey, a little bit of better lifestyle. It was with Knoxville, so I signed with Knoxville. So I was gonna get prepared to like leave to go play in Knoxville in like 4 or 5 days. And then Knoxville called me a couple days later and was like, "Hey, just talked to Utah. They're going to call you up actually from Knoxville. They're going to call you up and you're actually going to go to Utah." So I was like, "Okay." Tim Branham had called me and was like, "Hey, come on back to Utah." And so I got in my car. My wife and I packed up my car and we drove all the way across from New York, because she's from Buffalo, New York. So we drove from New York all the way across the country to Utah. Just before we got to Utah, like the rink. We drove 20, what was it? I don't know, 48 hours or whatever it was. It took me 2 days and drove all the way over there. Just before I went to park the car in the rink, I got a call from a random number in Syracuse. It was a Syracuse number. It was like, "Hey, this is so and so with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Um, would you be interested in playing for us?" Like, as like a, because they were doing that like taxi squad. "We need a goalie for our taxi squad in Syracuse with the Crunch. Would you be interested in coming and playing for us?" And at the time I was in Buffalo. Syracuse is so close. It would have been perfect. I was like, "I actually just signed in Utah. I'm out here now, but I can." Like, "Yeah, I will. Sure. I'll sign in." And because that would be so cool, like another experience in the American League. And he's like, "Okay, well, if you sign in Utah, like go and play games because you probably won't play anything here. It'll mostly just be practice all year." So I was a little bit bummed about that, but I was like, "You know what? I would rather play games than just practice." So I continued on to the rink, just like 5 minutes down the road, unpacked all my stuff. And then I played 1 or 2 games in Utah, had practice with them, but I didn't get there until January. So I had been off from early May from the previous season in Nottingham till January or February in to when I got my first game with Utah again. And I wasn't playing very well. I just was off. There was something off. I wasn't able to practice much or work out much other than just being in my basement. As you know, everyone was in lockdown, and that's not really an excuse, but that's just how it is. And then a couple days later, Tim Branham, the coach, had called me into his office and was like, "Hey, you got called up to Colorado. You're going to go up there and practice with them. You may get a game or two. I don't know." So now I went from the Federal Hockey League making $200 a week. I got called up to the American League within a span of like, I don't know, 25 days, something like that, 30 days. And so I practiced with them with Colorado for a couple of days and ended up signing an American League deal. So that's why I stayed in Utah the rest of the year. So I went from making $200 a week to sign an American League deal. So that was pretty funny how that worked. I ended up spending the rest of the year up and down. I think I was up and down about 10 times with Utah and Colorado. I didn't play a whole lot of games. I was driving a lot and flying a lot, and so that was an experience in itself.
I was gonna say the miles on the car and air miles would have been racking
Yeah,
up, but that's crazy. Like,
yeah,
you know, just constantly getting these calls. Hey, let's go up a league. Let's go up a league. It's funny
yeah,
enough, the Syracuse thing. I believe like the goalie I was with at Oswego, Dan Jones. He
yeah,
was my goalie partner. I believe he's like a couple times had to back up for the crunch because he lives in the area. So maybe he was took that position after you turned him down. But
yeah. That's funny. I don't know who they ended up choosing, but I was like, I can't believe that's how that worked, but it wasn't supposed to happen that way.
I follow Kazimir Kaskasuo on YouTube, and like he documented his whole year of being Nashville's
Yeah.
emergency goalie there or whatever it was called, and like just crazy lifestyle, practice every day, live like an NHLer, except just didn't get any games.
Yeah, it was really crazy. We were in a lot of hotels and moving in and out of apartments in Utah, and yeah, it was as much fun as it was, to be called up and stuff. It was really hard on myself, like mentally. I'd go up and practice for a couple of weeks and wouldn't get any games, and then I'd go down into Utah, and like you're kind of expected to perform because you're coming down from the American League, and I just wasn't playing. I didn't have a very good year. I just couldn't find a rhythm, and um, it was tough on me mentally. I took it into the next year to start the year, and I had felt like I'd let a lot of people down throughout that summer, and it was really it drained me quite a bit. But looking back now, as I've kind of gotten through it, it was a good experience and one that now I'm happy happened. Yeah, it was
And then
tough though.
after that crazy year, I would say, or crazy 5 6 months, you went back to Nottingham for another year, and then this past season you played in Norway. So I played in that league as well in Norway. You were in Sparta Sarpsborg. Funny enough, this is a random fact. Your goalie partner, Tobias, added me whenever I played in Norway, I guess. I think he saw me play, added me on like Instagram or something. And I'm pretty sure for
Yeah,
years I followed this kid and didn't even know who he was. And then this year,
yeah,
just saw a picture of him. And I was like, he's in Sparta. Doesn't isn't Kevin there? And
yeah.
how was he? Like he had it, just to talk about him quickly. Like he had a really good year this year as a
Mhm.
21-year-old. I think he's rumored to go to Sweden next year, but 31 games, 924 save percentage, 2 goals against. Like
Yeah.
how was he as a goalie and a teammate?
He's a really good goalie, man. I was really impressed with him the day that I got there. I was like, wow, who's this kid? Like he's a young kid, but there was 12 years difference in age between him and I. And if you didn't know that in looking at him, like he plays like a veteran goalie. Like he's very calm, very composed in the net, reads the game pretty well. I was really impressed, and I think I learned a lot more from him maybe than he learned from me this year. You'd have to ask him that, but yeah, just seeing him at the other end of the ice every day made me a better goalie, I think. So yeah, he's gonna have a really bright career and is somebody to watch.
I'm definitely going to be following him. As I said, just kind of random how, you know, you have someone on your social media and they're a goalie and, follow you through your career. And now I get the chance to follow him through his.
Yeah.
Um, we talked a little bit before, like just kind of like going through the adversities, obviously, that you went through in your career, getting cut, going D3 and kind of having that label and basically playing through that label. Um, any advice for people who, kind of have to go through something like that, and how you yourself, like what motivated you to kind of keep pushing when a lot of people probably would tell them like, yeah, you're double A now, like, start thinking about something else, or like, hey, you're playing D3, get focused on your degree, and then it's time to head to the real world.
Yeah, we talked off camera about this too. It's just don't give up. If you really find a passion, if you have a passion for something like hockey, and just keep going. And you and I are both, I think, testament to that, is just outlasting other people. If we don't go away, we have to win. It's just you have to be able to um, take things on the chin and just keep moving. Just especially just that last story I was telling you, where I ended up going through 4 leagues in a span of a month. In a span of a month, like things happen so fast in pro hockey. One day you could be in the coast, the next day you're playing in an NHL game. So if you just have a passion for it and you work hard and you're a good person and a good teammate, especially, people will want to play with you and they will want you on your team. So if you can mentally outlast the hardships of pro hockey and hockey in general, then you're probably going to be successful.
Yeah, for those listening, that's very true. It's not always easy. It's a mental battle. Everybody has
Yeah.
their own adversities, their own walls they have to climb over, I guess. But if you believe enough in yourself and you put in the effort, like I said, good things happen to good people, and normally hard work is rewarded. And it just needs someone to give you a chance, whether it's a coach, a teammate, someone randomly in the stands filming you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you never know. How long you plan on playing for?
I'm not sure. Yeah, this year for sure. So this will be year 10 for me. Pro hockey, 10 years pro hockey. I said I wanted to get to 10 years and then I would see from there. Um, I'll be 33 this year. So I still feel like I'm capable of playing at a high level, and I still have the desire and the fire to play. But we'll see what where life takes me and what happens from there. But no team as of yet for this next season. Hopefully find out there soon, but keep playing as long as I can, and as long as I'm still passionate about the game and I still have the drive to keep playing, then I'll keep playing. But yeah,
Keep playing as
it
long
gets
as you
harder
can,
every
man.
year. Yeah,
I'm telling
it
you.
gets a little bit harder every year.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but I also think, from what you've learned throughout your career, you've played with guys who are older than you, guys who are younger than you, and you can kind of take little things from their game that will maybe
Yeah,
postpone your playing career, allow you prolong your playing career, allow you to play longer. And, I've always said goalies, mature at an older age. So yeah, you're turning 33 this year, but to me, that's 33 years young. And for a goalie, that's maybe the prime or just, 28 of a player. You know what I mean? Like it's just, you're
yeah.
slowly getting into it. And then, so obviously one day will come, you'll have to retire and move on. Like, what do you plan on doing after hockey? Any passions? Any?
Yeah, I think for now, stay in the game. I still enjoy my summer. I do my summer camps and I teach a lot of kids wherever I'm playing to. I try to do clinics. I did clinics in Utah. I've done clinics in um, pretty much every place that I've played. So I really like teaching, and I think I'll probably stay in the goalie coaching realm. And um, it's what I know. It's what we know, right? Like I've always thought maybe I try something else and go into business or something like that. But we've dedicated our lives to this game, and it's what we know. It's what we're passionate about still. So I think I'll probably stay in the game of hockey and in the coaching field, probably goalie coaching, doing my own stuff like that.
It's a great place to start, and then you never know where it can take you. And
Yeah.
just in my personal experience, like in terms of Europe compared to North America, like GTA,
Mhm.
there's a goalie coach every 2 blocks, where in Europe it's a lot of guys just, giving their free time after work, just someone to go on the
Yeah.
ice with the kids. So you never know,
Yeah.
if you and your wife enjoy Europe, you might be able to find a place over there. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Well, we'll see what happens. But just like you, I mean, you've been over in Germany now, what, 5 years?
This is, yeah, my fifth or sixth year. Got a
Yeah.
place here, getting married this summer. So yeah,
Nice.
really
Good
done
for you.
the whole German thing.
Yeah. You really dove into the. Can you speak
Yeah.
German?
Yeah, I have to. A lot of office stuff. Not
Yeah.
everybody speaks English, so I've had to
How long did
learn.
it take you to learn?
Uh, like comfortably speaking, I would say 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Just a lot of Duolingo every day.
Hmm.
I had a tutor as well, and then just I tell anyone this, like, you can learn a language, but like speaking it, you just have to get over the fear and know that yeah, you're gonna make mistakes. Like I make mistakes every time I speak. It's not maybe grammatically correct in the right order, but they understand what I'm saying. And at least I'm trying and we can communicate versus like being shy
Yeah.
and then switching back to English. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's been good so far. Couple more here. So when you look back on your career, like, do you, when you look back, like, do you think about it and go, this was the career I expected to happen, I always dreamed of having, or are you still kind of like, wow, I can't believe I've come this far?
A little bit of both. I mean, everybody expects to play in the NHL and make millions of dollars, and when they're retired, they're sitting on a beach somewhere. But I think the majority of players and the majority of athletes in general, that's just not how it works. You know, you go through the ups and downs, and I don't think I would want it any other way, to be honest with you.
Another thing we forgot to talk about too is I just saw this video the other day and I sent it to you of your wife, the video of
Yeah.
that she or the
Yeah.
TikTok she posted. I sent it to my
Yeah.
fiance as well. It was hilarious. But how she must be in a sense like kind of taken back from this journey. Like, she met you in college there, and I doubt she would have thought 10 years later she would have been following you all over the world
Mhm.
in a sense on this journey. Like, has she been loving every minute of it, enjoying all the different countries, kind of taking in the experiences?
Yeah. We have a little bit of a funny story together, but we met in our senior year in college, and then we kind of like we never dated really or anything, and we just split apart. And she moved to Hawaii, and I went off playing, and then we got together about 4 or 5 years ago, back together, and it was like no time had passed, which was pretty cool. So yeah, we recently got married last year, and she's enjoying the experience as well. She can work online, which is great. So it's not like she's giving up her career, and now she's doing this TikTok thing, which has been fun experience for her and for both of us, I guess. And um, you know, at what point can many people say that they've lived in however many countries when like when we're done playing and when we have kids and stuff like that, and we'll have that experience to share with them. And yeah, it's we're very fortunate.
I tell people that all the time, like travel while you can, go to Europe, play hockey. It doesn't have to be the top leagues either. Like, it's just about the experience because when you're 50 years old and you look back, like I'm
Yeah,
sure saying, "Hey, I lived in Germany. Hey, I lived in England. Hey, I lived in
yeah,
Norway." Like those are things you can always remember, and you can always, oh, remember that time in Norway. Like, and especially for you, like you've been able to do it with someone that you obviously care a lot for.
yeah.
You know, evidently you might have made your glove hand a little slower with that ring on the finger there, but
That's right. Yeah,
no,
that's right.
that's awesome. I'm glad she's enjoying it as well.
Yeah, and our families come over and visit too, which there are places that where they would probably never come and visit,
Hmm.
just to go on vacation or anything. So it's opening up their eyes to the other parts of the world as well.
Yeah, that's true as well. I think my family especially too, seeing a lot
Yeah,
of things. My dad comes over here for work, but my mom, like, there's no other reason they would have come over here if it wasn't for
yeah, yeah.
me.
How'd you like? Was it Morzine you're in?
Yeah,
Is it a ski town or like in the mountains, right?
yeah, it's like right in the French Alps, so it's like from August until mid-December, it's tough. Like
Yeah,
everything's closed. Like there's like three things open. Like you go to the rink, you come
really.
home. Like it, but then
Hmm.
tourist season kicks off middle of December. Everybody from England comes. It goes from
Yeah,
3,000 to 30,000 people. So it's like it was sick.
really
Like in the winter, it was awesome playing there. The rink would be packed. It's a party town. Everyone's drunk, like screaming. So
cool.
it was awesome. 2 years there. Free team gave us free ski membership too, so could hit the
No way. They
slopes.
encourage you to ski. That's unbelievable.
Well, it's kind of do as you will because like if you get hurt on the thing, then they don't have to pay you if you get hurt on the slope. So they would tell
Yeah,
you that like here's your free one, use it as you want, but if you get an injury, you're not getting paid for as long as you're out for. So
yeah,
um
that makes
Carl Hudson, for example, from Canisius, I played with him
sense.
my first year there. This guy was on the slopes every day. Like just loves skiing. And I mean he was an animal. That guy could never get hurt. But
Yeah,
yeah, just funny experiences. But
that's
um
amazing. Awesome.
last one here. So I ask everybody this. What is when you're looking back and on everything you've been through, what is one piece of advice or maybe a couple of pieces of advice that you would have given your younger self? So if you were talking to your younger self at 16, 17, 18 years old, like what would the advice you'd give to him, a younger Kevin Carr?
I would say number one, be patient. Um, we always want things now. We always want things to happen quickly, but good things take a little bit of time. And throughout your time of, I saw this good quote the other day. It was um, talking about patience, but being like uncomfortably patient. So like working hard and working smart while you're being patient, and not just like sitting and waiting and being patient. Like hopefully this comes, but actively seeking your dream, whatever your dream may be, and doing things in the right way. to get to that dream while being patient and letting things take time. So that would be number one. Number two would be a sponge, always be learning, always have an eye for different ways of life. I mean, even going across to Europe and seeing different goalies play like this year. If I was just thinking as a 32-year-old that this 20-year-old kid couldn't teach me anything in Tobias, if I was just thinking that, then I wouldn't be open to what he was teaching me. And like I said, I think he was teaching me more than I was teaching him. And the way he played, the way he moved, I was like, man, I have a lot of work to do. Like I can be better here. I can do things differently and be more efficient in the crease by just the way he moves. So I think, number two would be a sponge and always be learning, always be open to new things.
Those are both great piece of advice. The first one, I wish I was more, patient. I definitely had a couple of years where I had to sit a little bit, and it was definitely mentally was tough. But as you said, I was still working hard, and evidently the 1 year got the chance in Germany that paid off. And yeah, being a sponge, as you said, like I'm happy you said that. You took playing this year with someone who's 11 years younger than you. You were learning from him every day. I'm sure he was learning stuff from you as well. Maybe you don't feel he was learning as much as you were from him, but I think that's just how, especially as goalies, how you can get better and grow your game every year. Is everybody has a unique element in their game that they're strong at, some skill, or maybe it's mental strength, whatever, puck handling. And if you can just learn and kind of pick their brain on it, you can just take that piece and add it to your game.
Yeah, just trying to play the long game. If your career is only going to be 1 to 3 years or 1 to 4 years playing pro hockey, like you want things to happen now because you want to play at the highest level you can. But I was always thinking of playing the long game. Like I knew I wanted to play a 10, 15-year career. So whatever was happening in this very moment, in this very year, wasn't going to, one, end my career, and two, wasn't going to mentally put me in a place where, things are going to stop for me. So I tried to always reverse thinking and being like, what, this is going to be good for me, good or bad. Everything is good for you. So yeah, like, much the same as you've had a long career as well. And now you're into coaching and doing all that, and you can go back on your experience playing and putting it into your goalies too.
Yeah, for sure. As I said before, I tell a lot of people, enjoy the process, enjoy the experience, work hard off the ice. That was something, unfortunately, I learned a little later in my career that I wish I'd learned earlier. But yeah, learn every day, man. That's all.
Yeah,
That's all we can do. Enjoy it as well. Yeah, Kevin, I appreciate you taking the time here, sharing your story. Definitely gonna have to ask you after for your camp information. I can put that up on the link as well. And
cool. Thanks,
any
man.
goalies listening, you want to spend a week trained by a guy who's been through it all. Kevin Carr is your man.
Thanks, Jersey. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
And for those listening, until next week, cheers and ciao.